Alright, welcome to Dynamic Addendum. The purpose of this video is to give a brief demonstration on how to use and the functionality of the web application Dynamic Addendum. So let's get started. What is Dynamic Addendum? It's a web-based application to systematically create all your UAD report commentary automatically. Typically saves about 30 minutes per report is what we've been finding, and it drastically reduces the amount of revision requests that you get back from your client. How does it work? Pretty simple. First, set up an account. It's a free account, you get a month free. Second, set up your addendum. Third, export your report, your XML report from any of the softwares. We don't store these files. You upload it so it can be read by the program, and it's deleted and destroyed. It's never saved on the server. And then once the addendum is created, you can export it to a Word document. You can select all, copy and paste it into your appraisal software. So before we get into the nuts and bolts of how the program works and what you need to do to get started, let me just walk you through a quick example to show you how it works. So once you log in to your account, it'll take you to this screen. This is the Start New Addendum screen. So this is where you're going to go ahead and drag and drop your XML file. Now your XML file needs to have 0 UAD errors, which all the software providers are going to do an E&O check on it. So check it before you drag it on here, because if you're dragging on an error-riddled file, it's not going to work. So let me drag on a XML file here. Uploads it and it reads it. First screen that's going to come up every single time is it's going to ask you for the sell dates for your comparables. Now, from the report, the program pulls the month and the year. There is no day of month within the UAD report, so it's going to ask you for it. And here it helps you out by putting the month and the year in it, so where you can just select the day by clicking to make it quicker. And what that does is do a lot of calculations off of for days on market based on the sell date. And so we really want to include this in our report. It really makes it professional looking. Click next. So what it does next is it analyzes the entire XML file, the entire grid, and it finds anything that needs commenting on. Now, these next screens are going to change based on your report. The application is not going to flash a screen up to you if it doesn't need commenting on. That would be a waste of time. So for this report, there was a view adjustment, and we need to make a comment on that view adjustment. So as you can see, comparable 2 and 4 had 2 different views, and they were adjusted for 2 different amounts. We need to comment on that. Now there's a default statement that you can click on, and it will kind of get a canned statement going for you, but you need to fill this out based on why you made that view adjustment. Below, it's always going to ask you how these adjustments were determined: paired cells, sensitivity, or you can add whatever you want. Let's say this was paired cells. Click next. All right, so we had a couple comparables that were adjusted for condition. Comparable 1 was rated a C3 and adjusted down 5,000. Why? We need to answer that question. So again, you click the default statement to get you going. On a specific how this is all fallen with a C3 and a negative 5,000. Sometimes what I like to do is I'll clean it up, because you don't have to make comments on this individually. What I typically do is, on a situation like this, I will put 1, 2, and number 4 were rated a C3 and adjusted in the amount of 5,000, just so I don't have the same canned statement 3 times. So that's one way to get around it, but feel free to use every box. And then there's a number 5. So we could add it like that. That's what I would do in that situation based on sensitivity. Click next. That's all that it found out of the grid. So the very last thing before the reconciliation, it's going to ask you all the time for any deferred maintenance. So many of us forget to add chipping and peeling paint, cost to cure $500, and we get a revision request because they want a cost to cure for that item. So this always reminds you to go through your pictures, comment on any deferred maintenance that might get kicked back to you. Click next. Final reconciliation. Default statement. This default statement is dynamic. And what I mean by that is it's going to go through a whole bunch of checks. And based on what it finds within your report, it will spit it out in commentary here to get you started. So this will change every time. You're not going to see every single solution or every single thing that is commented on every report, because it's only going to put what is needed in it. So there is a couple things that will always get put in to spice up your report. It's going to put the range, the spread of the range. It's going to list your comparables in percentage order from least to greatest. Same with your listings. It's going to do that as well if there's listings in the report. But for this one, which is a good example, it caught that the appraised value is actually below the range, the unadjusted range of my cell comparables. That is something that needs commented on. Sometimes that's overlooked. It's not caught by E&O in total or any other provider. So we're checking for a couple different things. We're going to that extra step deeper in report analysis. So you'd comment on that and then you'd hit finished. So now what that's going to do is it's going to input all of that data into your default addendum. Now this default addendum is set up in the addendum settings, which we will get into. But for instance, this field, I can tell you that was dynamically created. So on any report, we have this set up. Subject is located 20.09 miles away from my office, which is great. You never have to do as a crow flies again. It's automatically rendering that field. And down the line it goes. It spits out days on market. You know, the range of my comps were 23 days to 173 days on market. And then it lists them where they fall. Well, these ones fell below the marketing time. These ones fell, because this is also dynamic. It's pulling it from the report, 3 to 6 month marketing time. And then it lists out, like I said, which ones are above, below, or within that marketing time. Spits out some information about your listings. Where are they at? 97% sell to list price. It's calculating that. Location. It knows that all of them are within a mile. So you can make your reports to be dynamic. If it finds that your comparables are more than 5 miles away from your subject, you can already have your statement automatically put into this. You don't have to think about that aspect. Site adjustments, that's just a statement. View, here's the comments that we made on the view. Now we didn't make any in-depth comments, but just for the tutorial, this is where they're getting put under the view. So this whole thing is added to the addendum because we commented on view. And down the line it goes. Same thing for condition. Predominant value is a good one. So this, I know, is a dynamic field. Lower. The word lower is calculated. It's based on your page 1 predominant values. If my appraised value is higher or lower than that, it's going to change this field, and it's going to change this one also. This might say higher on the next port, and it's not an under or an over improvement. It's going to list out all your comparables. This might on another report say number 2, 4, and 6 exceed the desired maximum net adjustment, and same with the gross. Across the board adjustments, it's going to find. Here's your final reconciliation, and it's everything that you added in that last screen. So the entire report commentary is done. There's no checking things. It's dynamic and it's complete for you, and it's taking it to a deeper level of analysis. So let's go back here and talk about a couple things. So before we go there's the export to Word, or you could just select it all, copy and paste it onto your appraisal software form, or export it to Word. Open it up in Word. Drag this over here. And here it is. You could save it to your work file, print it out as a PDF, save it to your actual report, however you want to do your commentary. So let's go back here. So the features, I think we touched on a lot of them, but let's go through. It's the whole program is it's made to check for all these common requirements that the AMCs and lenders want us to comment on, so we don't get those revision requests. It's customizable, which I'll show you how you can customize some of these fields to make your own variables. So if there's something that you want to do that's specific and it might not be used for the majority of appraisers, you can make your own custom variables. It provides a consistent, systematic approach to addendum writing, which is great for offices that have multiple appraisers. The product that's leaving your office is consistent, which means that last bullet point, your clients are familiar with your product, and when they look at your comments, it's always systematic. It's the same thing every single time in a nice systematic approach, which they become familiar with your product and it's easier for them. So let's dive into a little bit of the nuts and bolts of the program here. The addendum settings tab. Now this is where you're going to create your addendum. This is the most time consuming part on a new user. There's no way around it. What we do is we provide a default addendum. Once you create your account, it has a good chunk of addendum already in there, and you can build it from that. So you're not starting from scratch, but a lot of you have templates already that you're going to be able to merge and make work. So it's going to take some time. You have to learn, a little bit of a learning curve, but once you have that set, you don't have to touch it ever again, and it's just going to keep evolving into something that's great. So the addendum setting tab, you're going to see 4 drop-down boxes: static variables, calculated variables, conditional variables, and custom variables. The static variables are going to be, best way to think about it is your page 1. Your owner's name, borrower's name, parcel number, things that don't need to be looked at by the program and computed to render a value. It's just a static thing. Calculated variables, on the other hand, are like the distance from the subject. That's always changing. That's not something I can just pull out of the report. It is a field that needs to be calculated. Conditional variables are, the best way to think about these are if-then statements. If a house ages prior to 1978, show a specific statement. Now within that, you can have variables as well, which we'll get into. The custom variables, they are variables that you can customize to set up if you have a unique need that you want to use. Or I'll show you a great tool that is very, very useful. So here's the variable examples. So anytime you see something in red and within, let me go back here, within the quotes, those are your variables. Those are the best way to think about those. These are placeholders. Wherever it has the brackets and borrower name, when the program renders your addendum, it's going to swap that out and actually put the borrower name in that placeholder. So I like to call these tags. It's the best way to think about them for me. Calculated variables, same thing, distance to subject within the brackets. Conditional variables, a little bit different animal. Like I said, think of those as if-then statements. There's a starting and an ending tag. So lead-based paint warning, start, so that's where it starts. Everything within the tag, here's the end, will be rendered and put on your addendum if this is, if that condition has been met. Now, like I said, within the tags, you can have another variable like the year built. Since the subject was built in this year, due to being built prior to 1978, has possibility of lead-based paint, and so on and so forth. Custom variables, again, they're going to look a little bit different, but what you can do is you can set up a variable, and the custom variables are the same way, work the same way as conditional variables. If a condition is met, it will show this. So for instance, you could create a custom variable for client. If the client name equals clear capital, I want to show this. So for accurate, if the client name equals accurate, you could put a message in there at the bottom of your addendum for your own, to alert you. Hey, I need all seasonal pictures. Or this client always requires the cost approach. Don't forget it. So you could use it for a reminder, or you can use it for something. Accurate always wants a distance calculation from subject to my office, so you could put it within those tags. So you could really, like I said, the program's really going to evolve over time based on what you need. So let's go ahead and take a look at all of those variables. So within the addendum settings, here are those 4 drop-down boxes. Now I'm not going to go through all of them, but if you hover over, it's going to have a tooltip, and it'll tell you what is being returned. The lender name, for example, client name, pretty cut and dry for the static variables. Calculated variables returns all the comp numbers greater than or equal to the 15% net adjustment. And for example, it's going to render number 1, comma number 2, and number 3 dynamically. Distance to subject. Conditional variables. So if you hover over it, statement is displayed if any comparables have a 10% or greater adjustment. Pretty cut and dry. And down the line, there's a lot of them. And these lists are always evolving based on the beta testers that are out there that want to see a different function. But with that said, here's your custom variables, and I'll show you how these work and how to set these up. And let's do that now. So we have one for clear capital. Let's make one for accurate. Custom tag settings. So you choose a variable from the drop-down list. Now, you won't see all the variables, because some variables you can't use in this function. So let's say the client name. Select an operator. If the client name equals accurate. Now let's make a accurate tag. Accurate is the client. So this description is going to be your tooltip. So if you ever need to use it again, you know what you were trying to do here. Click save. Tag has been saved. Let's go back into the addendum settings. So under the drop down box for custom tag, here is your accurate tag. Now the -13, it's defaulted to also add your user identification numbers to keep everything sorted, because these are your custom tags. So I know you didn't put that in, but that is how it ends up rendering. So that's how you create a custom variable. Now, how do you use these variables? Let's go ahead and delete this off. So this is your addendum writer. So you have tabs up at the top here. You have 10 different tabs, okay? You can name them whatever you want. If you change it, this will change up here. This is how it defaults to. Some items don't have anything for the default, but this is how it's going to look whenever you first create your account. And it's going to have a pretty substantial addendum to kind of get you started on how to. We don't want you to have to recreate the wheel here, but you're going to have to customize it. And you can separate it out however you want. You can have USDA tags, FHA tabs, VA tabs, and then your custom tabs. Here is where you can select what type of forms you want this specific information to be rendered on. So we have a 2055 heading here. We only want this rendered for the 2055 form, so we have that check marked. Same with the 1004s right there. The body, we want that rendered on all forms. So you have a little bit of You can make that work however you want it to work. You can have all forms on all of them if you want. It does not matter. So let's go ahead and go to the custom tag, and this is going to be the same for any of the variables, but since we just set up the custom variable, let's go ahead and click that. Once you click it, what it does is it copies it to your clipboard automatically. What you do is you come down here and you paste it. And what that does is you see your start tag, you see your end tag. So right here you change this information. Say, remember to get seasonal pictures for this client. Whatever you want to say. Click save. Once you click save, it's going to highlight those fields, just so you can see them a little bit easier. Now, one thing that happens sometimes is if you start typing again, all your words are in red. Just like in Word, it keeps going with the underline or the italics. Highlight it and select remove all formatting, and then you're going to get back to normal type. So that's just a little tip there. Conditional variables, same thing. Check mark that, 10% guideline. Come down here. Let's just go ahead and add it to here. Oh, see, we just did it. So perfect example. And here you go. It was necessary to use an adjustment greater than 10% due to yada, yada, yada. Now, here's an example where, well, we need a little bit more data for this. Well, not for this one specifically, but say we wanted to add, we'll come down here, comps over 25% gross adjustment. Paste that in there, okay? You'll see that we've also utilized the calculated variable of comps over 25% gross adjustment. So here's your start tag. I'm gonna click save here. There's your start tag. There's the calculated variable tag, and you have to use them. So this is what I mean by you need to write your reports to handle dynamic data. Comparables, quote, or parentheses with an S, just in case there's more than one. Things like that. Be thinking ahead. A regular static or a calculated variable is just going to be one single thing. Let's pick sold proximity range. Here again, let's go ahead and come down here. There's a sold proximity range. So as you can see, it's a little bit different than the conditional variables. This is just one single placeholder for a value that's going to get replaced with this tag. Click save. And there you go. And this is where you're going to have a lot of time that can't be overlooked. You have to set up your addendum. But this is what, again, gets defaulted once you create an account. So you don't have to reinvent the wheel. So a lot of these variables are already in here. Delete them out if you don't want them. Utilize what you can. Spice it up however you feel fit. This is just a starter addendum down the line. So a lot of the big ones, the common ones, are already in there. Here's your site not bracketed start tag, site not bracketed end tag. So if the site isn't bracketed, it's going to find it. It's going to put that whole statement in. If it's not, it's going to take it out. And down the line it goes. Same theory for every single thing. Exposure time is going to put marketing time in there. Private water sources, if the water is not public, it's going to throw that's the sewage, fuel sources, all the way down the line. That's your addendum. Once this is done, it's done. It's smooth sailing from here on out. You don't got to think about what template you're going to use. You don't have to click a quick list item and always be on top of things. Run through your report, do your adjustments, worry about the analysis, and then throw it through the system here, and it's going to take care of all your commenting, and it's going to flash it up. It's not making it so automatic to where we're adding canned statements, because it's prompting you systematically for things that should be commented on. So that's it. Like I said, after you've done that step, you'll end up clicking the Start New Addendum link, export the UAD XML file, free of errors. If you don't, it's gonna have all kinds of errors whenever you try to process it through there. So run through your E&O before you export it. One tip for exporting. I'm gonna say it again. One tip for exporting: do not export your entire report. I mean, that might end up being like 5 megs. It's gonna increase the processing time. All you need to do is select the items, check mark the items. I use total. Check mark just the UAD forms. So I'll unselect all and then just go and check mark all the UAD forms and any additional comparable forms. You need those as well. Once you export it, it takes a couple seconds from the software. Drag and drop it on the drop zone. There you go. It's going to prompt you for any additional commentary that can't be dynamically created but will be dynamically placed onto your report. And that's it. Click the finish button, export it again as we showed you through the Word document, or just select all and copy and paste it and go. So that's it. That's the basic demonstration of how this program's working. It's really gonna up your report writing. It's gonna look more professional, consistent, and applicable to your specific reports. I think a lot of the times we can have such a canned statement that it almost works against us. It's going to save time. That, in every case study that we've been using, it saves time. Now there might be a little bit of time on the front end creating your addendum, but again, if you have multiple appraisers in your office, you're all going to use the same addendum. It's going to look like the same appraiser, the same product coming out of your office every single time, which provides consistency. Make sure that all those appraisers, if you're the supervising appraiser, you know every single item is getting check marked and it's getting looked at, it's getting commented on. And that's it. I mean, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. Set up your free account. There's no payment or credit card needed. All you have to do is put in your name, email address, and that's about it. And it's going to send you an activation link. Get started, and there you go. And that's it. Again, take time doing the addendum. Take your time. Email us if you have any questions, feedback, a feature you'd like to see that you think the masses are going to want. If it can't be, say you're trying to do a custom variable that you can't set up because you don't have the functionality in the system to do what you want, let us know. We want this to evolve for the appraisers. We want a product that is going to grow with this industry. So feel free to email us. We'll look at every single item to add to this. I know a couple things are on deck. If you noticed on the reconciliation button, there's going to be a way that you can add a weighted analysis table. That's one of the things we're working on. There's probably going to be graphing that's going to be added. So there's things in motion right now, and they will be released as they're done. And we look forward to any feedback again, and we look forward to you having the product and making a great professional looking addendum. All right.